Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the top 10 books that I want to read in 2025. So I'm really happy because they're all on Hoopla, so they're all available digitally for free. And these are books that I've been wanting to read like for a while. The first one I'm reading right now, so I'm basically just gonna list it and then give like a summary, or I'm gonna read the summary. So the first book that I'm currently reading is called From Genesis to Revelation, God Takes a Bride by Susan A. Syrie. I think that's how you pronounce her name. So I'll just read like a little bit of the description from Amazon. It says, "This book examines the whole of Scripture as the unfolding marriage covenant between God and his people. The book demonstrates that God's marriage to his people is a central theme of the Bible." 18th century Reformed pastor Jonathan Edwards captured that perspective when he observed, "The creation of the world seems to have been especially for this end, that the eternal Son of God might obtain a spouse, to whom he might pour forth all that immense fountain of love and grace that was in his heart, and that in this way God might be glorified." This book enables Christians, whether single or married, to appreciate in a much fuller way the depth and nature of God's love for his bride. Seeing how the divine marriage defines and shapes human marriage also presents a clearer understanding of the spiritual importance of human marriage, inspiring Christians to pursue marriages that more faithfully reflect God's design. So that's the book in a nutshell. It's nonfiction. Um, I've enjoyed it so far. I think I've read like the first chapter, or I might have read the first two chapters, but I kind of took a break in between it, so I went back and reread the first one. There's a lot of statistics in that first chapter. I don't take like a lot of stock in statistics because I feel like there's a lot of varying factors that aren't mentioned, but the overall like theme of it, what I really appreciate is how it's showing that marriage is first between the church and God, and then human marriage like symbolizes the marriage that we already have with God and not the other way around, which I think we as humans tend to swap them kind of, if that makes sense. So that's the first one. The second one is called Queen of Exiles by Vanessa Riley. I think it's historical fiction. I have been waiting, waiting to read this book. It was not available on Hoopla for a while. And I read like a little, like kind of sample of it, and I really did like it. I just didn't want to like buy a book, to be honest. And I could have gotten it from the library, but you guys know I was busy this year. So I'm going to go ahead and read the summary. It's definitely a historical novel. Okay. It says the Queen of Exiles is Marie Louise Christopher, wife and then widow of Henry I, who ruled over the newly liberated kingdom of Haiti in the wake of the brutal Haitian Revolution. In 1810, Louise is crowned queen as her husband begins his reign over the first and only free black nation in the Western Hemisphere. But despite their newfound freedom, Haitians still struggle under mountains of debt to France and indifference from former allies in Britain and the new United States. Louise desperately tries to steer the country's political course as King Henry descends into a mire of mental illness. In 1820, King Henry is overthrown and dies by his own hand. Louise and her daughters manage to flee to Europe with their smuggled jewels. In exile, the resilient Louise redefines her role, recovering the fortune that Henry had lost and establishing herself as an equal to the kings of European nations. With newspapers and gossip tracking their every movement, Louise and her daughters tour Europe like other royals, complete with glittering balls and princes with marriage proposals. As they find their footing and acceptance, they discover more about themselves, their Blackness, and the opportunities they can grasp in a European and male dominated world. Queen of Exiles is a tale of a remarkable Black woman of history, a canny and bold survivor who chooses the fire and ideals of political struggle and then is forced to rebuild her life on her own terms, forever a queen. Yeah, it sounds really good. And I think I mentioned this in previous videos, but I've definitely just been wanting like a more variety in the books that I read. So like just more like minority authors, so like African American, Asian American, like just broadening my horizons, if that makes sense. So I'm really excited about this one, and I just feel like more of a connection to this story in particular. So I'm really excited. The next one that I want to read, I actually started reading some time ago and I never finished it. It was like on Hoopla for a while and then off, and now it's back on, but it's called The Whole 5 Feet by Christopher R. Beha. I don't know if that's how you pronounce the last name, but it's really good. It is a nonfiction book, it's a memoir, and it's basically talking about like his life. It talks about his struggles like becoming a writer, but he is reading, I forget what it's called. I'm trying to look it up right now. There's a specific name for it. It's like a list of books that I want to say like that Harvard. It's like a list of books that Harvard. I don't know if it's Harvard students read, but it's like a list that they have, and it's composed of like all of these like great writers and stuff. So he's basically kind of going on um he's basically kind of going on that journey of like reading these different books, and they're teaching him things about life, but then you're also just learning about stuff that he's going through. So I'm like really excited to read that. I'm going to go ahead and read the summary so that you can have a better like understanding than what I just gave you. But let's see. Okay, it says in The Whole 5 Feet, Christopher Beha turns to the great books for answers after undergoing a series of personal and family crises and learning that his grandmother had used the Harvard classics to educate herself during the Great Depression. Inspired by her example, Beha vows to read the entire 5 foot shelf. That's what I was talking about. The entire 5 foot shelf, one volume a week over the course of the next year. As he passes from St. Augustine's Confessions to Don Quixote, I don't know, from Richard Henry Dana's 2 years before the Mass, to essays by Cicero, Emerson, and Thoreau, he takes solace in the realization that many of the authors are grappling with the same questions he faces. What is the purpose of life? How do we live a good life? What can the wisdom of the past teach us about our challenges? Beha's Chronicle is a smart, big hearted, and inspirational mix of memoir and intellectual excursion, and a powerful testament to what great books can teach us about how to live our own lives. It is a really compelling book. Like it's super interesting, I will say. I don't know. I don't think the author was a believer when he wrote the book, and I don't know if he's a believer now, but I definitely felt like those big questions that he had in the book, it's like we as Christians, we actually do have the answer to that. Like, what is the purpose, of life? To know God and to make him known. Um, how do we live a good life? By following him and trusting him and obeying him. But I think it's just really interesting to kind of like tap into somebody's mind and see them wrestle with these like big kind of life questions, I guess, for themselves. So yeah, I've really liked what I've read so far, and I'm excited for that. The next one is called A $500 House in Detroit. This is a book that learned about when I was in school. When I went to school for journalism, we actually met the author of this book. And he like answered some questions and stuff for us. I just remember him talking about that book and did I shake the camera? Sorry. I remember him talking about that book and it was always something that I wanted to read. But again, I wanted to get it for free. So now here I am. And I will read the summary. It says a young college grad buys a house in Detroit for $500 and attempts to restore it and his new neighborhood to its original glory in this deeply felt, sharply observed personal quest to create meaning and community out of the fallen as standout. So that was kind of a review. But the summary, it says Drew Phillip, an idealistic college student from a working class Michigan family, decides to live where he can make a difference. He sets his sights on Detroit, the felt metropolis of abandoned buildings, widespread poverty, and rampant crime. Arriving with no job, no friends, and no money, Philip buys a ramshackle house for $500 in the East Side neighborhood known as Pole Town. The roomy Queen Anne he now owns is little more than a clapboard shell on a crumbling brick foundation, missing windows, heat, water, electricity, and a functional roof. A $500 house in Detroit is Philip's raw and earnest account of rebuilding everything but the frame of his house, nail by nail and room by room. As he assimilates into. Oh, wait, I'll go back. We witness his concept of Detroit shift, expand, and evolve as his plan to save the city gives way to a life forged from political meaning, personal connection, and collective purpose. As he assimilates into the community of Detroiters around him, Philip guides readers through the city's vibrant history and engages in urgent conversations about gentrification, racial tensions, and class where warfare. Warfare? I don't know why I cannot speak today, guys. But anyway, that's the summary. um, Definitely like very deep, obviously. Um, Really important topic, so that's why I've like always wanted to read it. I just care, so much about these things. I care about how people are living their lives, and I believe that, we should all be able to live our life to the fullest without like systemic kind of issues getting in the way, if that makes sense. It might make sense to some of you, it might not make sense to some of you, but yeah, that's the other book that I want to read. And then um I think I didn't write the whole thing for this, but the next book that's on my reading list is So Many Beginnings by, I think it's Bethany C. Morrow. I'll look it up right now. This is a book that another YouTuber recommended to me. I believe it's a retelling of Little Women. Um, and I'll put the YouTuber's name on the screen so that you can also watch her videos because she does a lot of book videos too. But let me look this up and find the summary. Yeah, and the last name was correct. Okay. And this is a fiction. The previous one that I mentioned, obviously nonfiction. So I have a nice little mix that I'm, planning to read. Um, okay, let's see. North Carolina, 1863. As the American Civil War rages on, the freed people's colony of Roanoke Island is blossoming, a haven for the recently emancipated. Black people have begun building a community of their own, a refuge from the shadow of the old life. It is where the March family has finally been able to safely put down roots with four young daughters. Meg, a teacher who longs to find love and start a family of her own. Joe, a writer whose words are too powerful to be contained. Beth, a talented seamstress searching for a higher purpose. Amy, a dancer eager to explore life outside her family's home. As the four March sisters come into their own as independent young women, they will face first love, health struggles, heartbreak, and new horizons, but they will face it all together. So, yeah, I'm really excited for this. As you guys know, if you've watched my other videos, I love Little Women. I loved the book so much. I read the entire series. I read Little Men and Joe's Boys. Is that what it's called? I think so. And I loved all of them like so much. So I'm really excited to see what this retelling is like. I'm just like really happy about all of these books. Now, the rest of the books in my top 10 are all by Jennifer Shiverini, okay? Also, if you've watched my book videos, you know that I just like love her series so much. It's called the Elm Creek Quilt series. I don't want to go on and on about it because I feel like I do talk about it a lot in my videos, but it's really good. I guess you could say that the series is like domestic fiction. There's sometimes like historical fiction kind of thrown in there, but I like just have grown to love the characters so much. So there's a couple, well, there's like still quite a few books in the series that I haven't read, and so I want to read The Wedding Quilt, The Giving Quilt, um, The Christmas Boutique, and then The Museum of Lost Quilters. That's actually a new one that she published. Like, I think she published it this year, meaning 2024. I don't know when this is going to be posted. Um, but yeah, I think that she published it then, so I'm really excited about that. Um, I will read the first one because I do feel like sometimes the summaries give it away. So I'm not going to read the summary for the other ones because I don't want any spoilers. Yeah. But I'll read the summary for the wedding quilt. Let's see. So it says, as her daughter's wedding day. What? Okay. Like, I knew that Sarah was pregnant, but I didn't know, like, I don't think I knew if it was like a boy or girl. It's been a little while, so I'm kind of jumping back into the series, I guess. But the last time I checked, she was pregnant, and now it's saying, like, as her daughter's wedding day approaches. That's like a big, like, time leap. So you really get to follow the characters in this. Okay, I'm going to read the rest. As her daughter's wedding day approaches, Sarah McClure reflects upon Elm Creek brides, past and present, the traditions they honored, the legacies they bequeathed, the wedding quilts that contain their stories in every stitch. Unexpectedly, Carolyn confides, I wish I had a wedding quilt, one I made myself. Sarah yearns to grant her fervent wish, but even the most talented novice would be daunted by the task of stitching mere days before the wedding, a worthy symbol of the couple's bonds of love, commitment, trust, and hope for the future. Turning to her cherished friends, the Elm Creek Quilters, Sarah asked them to pool their creative gifts. As the women stitch, their memories render a vivid pastiche of family, friendship, and love in all its varieties. Okay, this definitely does kind of sound like it's going to be one of those. I don't I wouldn't call them like filler books, but she has books that are like almost like transitioning books and they're like very reflective. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I have like really enjoyed every book. The only book that I like was kind of about, like it just didn't like I didn't feel it. I don't know what this means, guys. But anyway, the only one that I wasn't really feeling was the Winding Ways quilt, which was kind of a transition book, like what I'm saying. But I think that this will be, well, I just hope that it will be a little different. Definitely still gonna read it, God willing. So anyway, that's my whole reading list. And then I also wrote down a couple of like maybes, so some books I might want to read because I actually read slash listened to, I guess, like 26 books this year. So this is only 10, so I could probably read more, but it just depends on what my schedule looks like. I might get really busy and I might not have the time to do it. And I kind of want to take my time, especially with the book that I'm reading. I feel like it's really informative. I'm getting a lot out of it. I don't want to rush it just because I'm excited about these other books, because then I'm going to miss out on like the little gems that I can get from each book. So these are definitely just maybes, but I have on here the Yada Yada Prayer Group Gets Down by Netta Jackson. So I read the Yada Yada Prayer Group. It's over there actually. It's that pink one. And it was really, really good. I enjoyed it. So this one would just be book 2. Um I actually kind of read a little bit of it, but I just never finished it. So that's one that I want to read. I would recommend the Yada Yada Prayer Group too. It's really good. Just Christian fiction, really good about like relationships. Definitely a huge twist at the end that I was not expecting, so it was good. The other one I think I mentioned in another video is called Once Upon a Prime by Sarah Hart. So I'm gonna read the summary for this because I'm pretty excited. Like, I'm just so excited that I can actually read it for free. Um, and it's a nonfiction, definitely nonfiction. It says, we often think of mathematics and literature as polar opposites, but what if instead they were fundamentally linked? In her clear, insightful, laugh out loud, funny debut, Once Upon a Prime, Professor Sarah Hart shows us the myriad connections between math and literature and how understanding those connections can enhance our enjoyment of both. Did you know, for instance, that Moby Dick is full of sophisticated geometry? That James Joyce's stream of consciousness novels are deliberately checkered with mathematical references? That George Eliot was obsessed with statistics? That Jurassic Park is undergirded by fractal patterns? That Arthur Conan Doyle and I'm butchering these names. I don't even know that next one. I'm going to skip it. Wrote mathematician characters from sonnets to fairy tales to experimental French literature. Professor Hart shows how math and literature are complementary parts of the same quest to understand human life and our place in the universe. So I'm really excited about that book. It's a maybe, but if I do get to read it, that'll be great, because my like strong suit is more English, but I love like the concepts of math. Like, I'm not good at math and I don't pretend to be. I mean, I can improve, but I'm just not like naturally good at math, but I've always like still loved it, which I guess is kind of weird, but maybe not, considering that there are actually links and connections between the two. So that's another one. The other one that I do want to read is called How to Heal Our Racial Divide by Derwin L. Gray. So let me just read that. This is one that I saw at I think I saw it at Barnes and Nobles, yeah. But I just didn't end up buying it. I think I ended up buying something else that day. Let's see. And I really don't know anything about him except that he is a football player and that he went to a evangelical seminary school. So, yeah. Why must everything be so black and white? Like many of us, Derwin Gray is weary of the racial divide in our society. He longs to see hurts healed, wrongs corrected, and trust replace distrust. The good news is that the Bible has a lot to say about how to heal our persistent racial divides. In this book, popular Bible teacher Derwin Gray walks us through scripture, showing us the heart of God, how God from the beginning envisioned a reconciled, multi ethnic family in loving community, reflecting his beauty and healing presence in the world. This message is central to the gospel itself. After reading this book, you won't read the Bible the same way again, and you'll want to walk through this eye opening scriptural journey with your friends or small group. So yeah, I mean, that sounds really good to me. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the last one on my maybe list is called The Grumble Free Year by Trisha Goyer. I also saw this one at Barnes and Noble. I don't remember like what it's about, so I am gonna pull up the summary, of course. But I liked the cover of it, and I think like the grumble for a year, like the whole idea of just working on not complaining, is definitely appealing to me. I will always need that. So, okay. It says the Goyer home with two parents, eight kids, that's a lot of kids. Eight kids and one 88-year-old grandmother with dementia is never without noise, mess, activity, and often complaining. And it's not just the kids grumbling. After adding 7 children in less than 6 years through adoption, the Goyer family decided to move out of survival mode and into unity and growth mode. They decided to tackle the impossible, a grumble free year. With grade schoolers, teenagers, and a grandmother who believes children should be seen and not heard. Oh, that's so real. Plenty of room exists for flunking the challenge. Add to that 7 children being homeschooled together in close quarters, and what could possibly go awry? Wow. That's a lot of children to homeschool, too. Sorry, I'm like, when she said 8 kids, I just got stuck on that. Okay. In the Grumble Free Year, the Goyers invite readers into their journey as they go complaint free and discover what it looks like to develop hearts of gratitude. They share their plans, successes, failures, and all the lessons they learn along the way, offering real life action steps based in scripture so that readers get not just a front row seat to the action, but also an opportunity to take the challenge themselves and uncover hearts that are truly thankful. So, yeah, that's the last one on my maybe list. And those are all of the books that I'm really looking forward to reading. I really want to also kind of guard my heart with the things that I read and watch, making sure that the stuff that I'm reading is uplifting. Obviously, some of the books on my list are going to be like hard for me to read. Those are like, I don't really want to call them hot topics, but they're big topics. They can be like painful, and so it's not it doesn't have to be like lighthearted, but I think just making sure that I'm even reading these books through the correct like lens is important too. But that is it. I hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful new year. Let me know what books you guys are planning to read down below, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye.